Alright, the topics that we're going to discuss tonight. First of all, key takeaways from Budget 2024. As a Malaysian citizen, you may be wondering what's in it for me. So we'll talk about the biggest winners and losers of this budget, as well as the key highlights. And next up, 600,000 ringgit to retire today. This one is according to EPF. And back in 2019, they set a basic minimum savings target of 240,000 ringgit. And you may be curious what's your progress towards these goals. Yeah, I've decided to compile a table of calculations and you'll be able to see your progress towards EPF's target goals. Okay? And finally, why the Sing dollar is so strong right now. Yeah, majority of the people will take this opportunity to blame the current administration as well as the historic political instability of Malaysia, right? Scandals, corruption, and greed. All of this has truth in it, but we must take a look at other factors as well. Okay? This and more in our weekly analysis, as usual, not financial or legal advice. A quick shout out to all our current gatherer members, our patrons. Thank you all so much for your support. Allow me to start with Andrew, Wendy, Edward, Alex, CC Is, Morpheus, Urshad, Caveman, Balls, Calvin, Kai, Tommy, Jinkang, Adrian, Eric, JS, Wenyan, Dean, Duhan, Ken, Faris, Alan, Jackson, Rizan, and Jeremy, as well as all of our learner members. Right, on to the first topic of the night, winners and losers of Anwar's budget 2024. On Friday, he announced the next year's budget, and it is yet again the biggest allocation. No surprises here, right? 393.8 billion ringgit compared to this year's budget of 388.1 billion ringgit. And if you take a look at the history of Malaysia's total expenditures, right, it's only been going up and up. Okay, back in 2000, the operating expenditure was around 52 billion ringgit, and right now it's sixfold, 300 billion ringgit. And you take a look at development expenditure, previously back in 2000 was 28 billion ringgit, and right now it's over 90 billion ringgit. Okay, and where is the money going to? How are the funds being distributed? Well, a large portion of the money will go into the Finance Ministry, 16.91%. Next up will be the Education Ministry, 14.91%. And finally, the Health Ministry over here at 10.46%. So these three ministries alone, right, they already occupy 42 to 43% of the total budget next year. Okay, and the key points over here, the first most important one, diesel subsidies will be cut in a phased manner. Okay, this is according to the government's goals to gradually phase away from blanket subsidies. Okay, because they've been paying a lot to keep price pressures low and inflation low, right? And right now, the government currently pays 1 ringgit 60 cents to keep the price of diesel fixed at 2 ringgit 15 cents per litre. So in the next few years, you may expect this will be somewhat implemented on petrol subsidies as well. As they said, they're gradually moving away from blanket subsidies. Okay. Next up, reduced electricity subsidies for top 10% of consumers. This one was previously implemented already, and it saved the current administration 4.6 billion ringgit. So they say that, hey, why not let's continue this? Because the issue of blanket subsidies right now is that majority of the money goes towards the extremely rich and the rich, right? Because blanket subsidies, they do not disgrace. They don't care whether you're B40, M40, or T20, right? Or even T1, right? So if you're rich, you tend to consume more fuel as well as more electricity, and then you have much more subsidies. This is why the government decides to continue this reduction of electricity subsidies. Next up, temporary price controls on chicken and eggs will be lifted. Yeah, this one is to allow the free market forces to readjust the prices of these two necessities, as well as potentially letting farmers to earn more. Okay. Inflation expected to tick up due to the removal of some of these subsidies. As I mentioned just now, all these three factors alone is more than likely to increase inflation next year. And finally, the service tax rate, SST, this one will increase to 8% from 6%. So people who like to shop a lot, yeah, you may be needing to pay more at the end of the day. But this does not affect food, beverages, and telecommunications. So let's take a look at the winners and losers of this budget. Yeah, poor families, winners, they will receive a rebate of 40 ringgit per month on their electricity bills. Next up is electric bikers. Yeah, this one is to encourage EV production as well as environmental consciousness, and at the same time reduce the demand for cars, right? Because this is for bikers only. 2,400 ringgit for e-bike owners, but only for those people earning 120,000 ringgit and below annually. Next up, entertainers. Yeah, abolishing the 25% tax on entertainment. So people who like to perform on stage, yeah, it may be good news for you, okay? Paddy farmers, 2.6 billion ringgit in subsidies to support these people. And the floor price of paddy has been raised from 1,200 ringgit per metric ton to 1,300 ringgit. Finally, sports enthusiasts. Yeah, if you like to go to the gym, if you like to do training, you will get 1,000 ringgit tax relief when you purchase sports equipment or training. Okay, the biggest losers. Yeah, first of all, shopaholics. As I mentioned just now, SST will increase to 8% from 6%, and the government will also implement a luxury goods tax, yeah, for fashion items such as watches and jewelry. Next up is sweet tooths. Yeah, those people who like to eat sweet stuff. Excise duty on sugary premixed beverages. It will be bumped up from 40 cents to 50 cents. So now, on to the next topic, EPF retirement savings. Okay, now this one is back in 2019. EPF set a target 240,000 ringgit for people who are reaching the age of 55. And this will give them a monthly income of 1,000 ringgit for the next 20 years. Okay, but right now, recently EPF recommended another figure. Okay, this one is much higher compared to 240k. It's 600,000 ringgit, and this amount is needed to retire comfortably today. And their justification is that Malaysia's life expectancy has increased from previously 75 years to right now 80 years. And living in major cities today, people require at least 2,450 ringgit per month, or if you want to do a lump sum, that's 600,000 ringgit. Okay, but we have a major issue over here. Yeah, majority of the people, especially people who are closer to retirement, the closest to retirement, they are extremely far away from 600,000 ringgit. And let's not take a look at 240,000 ringgit. They are almost 2 times lesser. Their funds are almost 2 times lesser compared to EPF's basic savings target. So this is a very alarming issue. And if not resolved within the next few years, we may be hit with a retirement crisis. So what can we do as citizens? Well, the first thing to do is to voluntarily contribute to your future every month. Okay, so you can take a look at this table over here. Let's say you're currently 26 or 27, you're a fresh grad, you earn a fresh grad salary, 2,400 ringgit per month. You take a look at your average EPF savings, and then you'll be able to see the minimum monthly contributions required to hit 240,000 ringgit, as well as 600,000 ringgit. Okay, and what you will notice in this table is that it gets exponentially more difficult to hit EPF's targets, both targets. This highlights the urgency of starting early. Okay, but there is some good news over here. The calculations that I provided to you guys today includes mandatory contributions from you and your employer. Okay, so let's say, again, you are 26 or 27, you earn 2,400 ringgit per month, your mandatory EPF contributions is around 576 ringgit. So it's more than enough to hit 240k by 55 already. You need to top up a bit more in order to achieve 600,000 ringgit by 55. But the other issue, which I didn't really talk about, is that this figure is for today. It's retiring today. Okay, that means it affects these people the most. Okay, to retire in the next 20 or 30 years, 600,000 ringgit won't be nearly enough if we start to factor in inflation, right? So 600,000 ringgit in the next 20 or 30 years may be the minimum figure to retire, and we may just need 1 million ringgit in order to retire comfortably. Okay, but that is for another day. There's a whole other can of worms. Just pay attention to the calculations over here first. Okay. But EPF locks my funds until 55. How? Yeah. So some of you might be saying, hey, you want me to voluntarily contribute to EPF, but I can't access my funds until 55. I'm still very young. Okay, but this decision on whether you're still young or not so young, I'll let you guys decide for yourself. Okay, but for youngsters, time is on your side, and you don't need to necessarily contribute a lot to EPF every month. You can afford to explore higher risk, higher return options. Okay, these include unit trusts, ETFs, stocks, and crypto. This part, you guys need to do your own research. Okay, for those people who are not so young, income is on your side. Yeah, on average, you will earn more compared to the youngsters these days, and you can use this opportunity to explore low to medium risk options. Now, why not high risk? Well, you can afford to explore high risk also, but you tend not to want them to fluctuate too much because you don't have much time left compared to the youngsters. Okay? And finally, for products that are low to medium risk, that's fixed deposits, ASB, ASM, cash apps, and gold. So how to achieve these goals sooner? Yeah, first of all, make sure you pay yourself first. What we tend to do is to save whatever that's left at the end of each month, except there's often nothing left. We see money in our bank account, we always have the tendency to spend it. So why not, from today onwards, at the start of each month, treat yourself like a bill. Okay? Allocate a fixed amount of money specifically for your future. It doesn't have to voluntarily contribute to EPF. You can take a look at all the products I mentioned just now. Right? Next up, save whatever you can. Okay, so at some months, even after you set a fixed amount to save, okay, you'll be left with some additional balance in your bank account. Okay, rather than spending all of it, why not just allocate a tiny bit for your future again? Okay? And finally, upskill yourself. Okay, this will enable you to negotiate a better salary from your employer or look for a higher paying job. All this will increase your income and at the end of the day will increase your savings. So that's a bit about EPF and retirement. Let's shift on over right now to the Singapore dollar. Yeah, 3.45 as of Friday's close against the Malaysian ringgit. A lot of Malaysians are worried seeing our closest neighbor advancing into a first world country, and now we're going to deal with this 3.45 again. Yeah, it's a lot of headache, okay? And the majority of the people is using this opportunity to blame the current administration as well as the historic political instability of Malaysia, like scandals, corruption, and greed. All of those are true to a certain extent, but we must take a look at other factors as well. Okay, you must understand that Malaysia and Singapore, both of these countries, have very different monetary policies. In Malaysia, uses interest rates to control inflation. And this one, I'm sure the majority of you know. Yeah, Bank Negara Malaysia set the overnight policy rate, increased the overnight policy rate. Why? To control inflation, discourage borrowing, right? But Singapore, they do not control domestic interest rates. Instead, they use the exchange rate to control inflation. This means that they directly intervene in the strength or weakness of the Singapore dollar in order to keep a lid on price pressures. And why are they able to do so? Well, first of all, Singapore is a tiny nation, right? And secondly, they rely heavily on imports because they have no natural resources. Okay, so let me give you a quick rundown on how this happens in Singapore. Right, first of all, we have high inflation. This one is not just prevalent in Singapore, but the entire world as well. Yeah, in Malaysia, which is why Bank Negara Malaysia last year they have been raising the overnight policy rate. Right, so in Singapore, high inflation. The Central Bank of Singapore, which is Monetary Authority Singapore, or MAS for short, they will directly intervene in the currency market to strengthen Sing dollar. I mean, like, literally, they will use their foreign currency reserves to buy up Sing dollars, and at the end of the day, it will reduce Singapore dollars, the circulating supply of SGD within the market, and strengthen SGD itself. And a stronger currency makes imports cheaper, and since Singapore relies heavily on imports, inflation cools with a stronger Sing dollar. Okay, this is why Singapore dollar has been so strong recently. Okay, and if you're wondering whether Malaysia can follow this monetary policy or not, yeah, we cannot. Okay, first of all, we don't even have enough forex reserves. Okay, if you take a look at Singapore, they are among the top 10 countries with the largest forex reserves. Okay, as of June 2022, they have 365 billion US dollars. If you compare to Malaysia, yeah, Malaysia only has 110 billion US dollars, okay, much less compared to Singapore. And the second factor is that just now, I mentioned, right, Singapore does not control domestic interest rates, okay, because they already use the exchange rate to control inflation. If Malaysia were to follow Singapore, then we will effectively forego control of domestic interest rates, okay, and then we will follow the global trend. Imagine OPR right now, instead of 3%, yeah, Bank Negara set it, it follows the global trend like US or UK, 4, 5, or even 6%, what would that do to Malaysia's economy and the rakyat? We will definitely go into a recession, right? So those are the factors as to why the Sing dollar is so strong right now. And that brings me to the end of my presentation tonight. Hopefully you guys gain a bit of insights on the retirement, EPF's target goals, as well as budget 2024. Thank you guys so much for joining. I will see you guys in the next session. All right, guys. Good night. Stay safe. Bye.